Economic and administrative problems. The number of amirs and their ranks or mansabs had increased sharply over time. There was little land left to be distributed among them as jagirs. Aurangzeb tried to solve the problem of acute shortage of jagirs or bejagiri by showing enhanced income from the jagirs on record. But this was a short sighted measure as the amirs tried to recover the recorded income from the jagirs by pressurizing the peasantry. So both the amirs and the peasantry were antagonized. Then there were the wars, the luxurious lifestyle of emperors, and the amirs alike the reduction of Khalisa land, all of which burdened the state. The result was that the expenditure of the state much exceed its income. There was, moreover, no significant scientific and technological advance that could have improved a stagnant economy. The once flourishing trade did not enrich the empire's coffers, even as the inroads by the European traders growing along coastal India. These economic and administrative problems only multiplied following the death of Aurangzeb. The empire had become too vast to be efficiently administered by a centralized system when the rulers were weak and incompetent. Rise of regional states. The states emerged as a result of the decline of the Mughal Empire can be classified into the three broad categories. First, successor states. These were the Mughal provinces that turned into states after breaking away from the empire, though didn't challenge the sovereignty of the Mughal ruler. Establishment of virtually independent and hereditary authority by their governors showed the emergence of autonomous polity in these territories. Some examples are Awadh, Bengal, and Hyderabad. Second, independent kingdoms. These states came into existence primarily due to the disstabilization of the Mughal control over the provinces, examples being Mysore and the Rajput states. Third, the new states. These were the states set up by the rebels against the Mughals empire, example being the Maratha, the Sikh and the Jat state. Survey of regional kingdoms. Hyderabad. The founder of Asaf Jah House of Hyderabad was Kilich Khan, popularly known as Nizam ul Mulk. It was Zulfikar Khan who had first conceived the idea of an independent state in the Deccan. But with his death in 1713, the dream was remained unfulfilled. Kilich Khan, disgusted with the Mughal emperor who had appointed Mubarak Khan as a full-fledged viceroy of the Deccan, decided to fight Mubarak Khan. He defeated and later killed Mubarak Khan in the Battle of Shakar Kita, 1724. He now assumed control of the Deccan. In 1725, he became the viceroy and conferred on himself the title of Asaf Jah. Awadh, the founder of the independent Principality of Awadh, was Sadat Khan, popularly known as Burhan ul Mulk. Sadat Khan was a Siha. He had joined in a conspiracy against the Sayyid brothers, which resulted in the beginning given as increased mansab. Later, driven out of the court, he was prompted to found a new independent state. Sadat Khan committed suicide due to pressure from Nadir Shah, who was demanding a huge booty from him. He was succeeded by Safdar Jung as the Nawab of Awadh. Bengal. Murshid Quli Khan was the founder of the independent state of Bengal. He was a capable ruler and made Bengal a prosperous state. He was succeeded in 1727 by his son Shujauddin. His successor Sarfaraz Khan was killed in 1740 by Alvarid Khan, the deputy governor of Bihar, at Giria, who assumed power and made himself independent of the Mughal emperor by giving yearly tribute. The Rajputs. The Rajputs tried to re-establish their independence in the 18th century. This forced the Mughal ruler Bahadur Shah I to march against Ajit Singh 1708, who had formed an alliance with Jai Singh II and Durga Das Rathore, but the alliance was broken and the situation was saved for the Mughals. At one time, the Rajputs controlled the entire territory extending from the south of Delhi up to the western coast. Mysore. Another important state to make its appearance in the 18th century was the Mysore. This territory, located at the junction of the eastern and western Ghats, was ruled by the Wadiyars. Various powers interested in this territory turned the area into constant battlefield. In the end, the Mysore state was brought under the rule of Hyder Ali, who ruled the state but not without trouble. He was involved in constant warfare with the British, and so was his son Tipu Sultan. Kerala. Martanda Varma established an independent state of Kerala with Travancore as its capital. He extended the boundaries of his state from Kanyakumari to Cochin. He made efforts to recognize his army along the western model and adopted various measures to develop his state. The Jats. The agriculturist Jat settlers living around Delhi, Mathura, and Agra revolted against the oppressive policies of Aurangzeb. After some initial setbacks, Choraman and Badan Singh succeeded in setting up the Jat state of Bharatpur. But it was under Surajmal that Jat power reached in zenith. He not only provided an efficient system of administration but also greatly extended the territory of the state. His state, including territories from Ganga to in the east to Chambal in the south, and including the Subhas of Agra, Mathura, Meerut, and Aligarh, who, however, the Jat state suffered a decline after the death of Surajmal in 1763. Thereafter, the state split into small areas controlled by petty zamindars who mainly lived by plunder. The Sikhs. The Sikh. Guru Gobind Singh transformed the Sikhs into a militant sect in defense of their religion and liberties. Banda Bahadur, who later assumed the leadership of the Sikhs in 1708, was defeated and killed. In the wake of invasions of Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali, the Sikhs once again asserted their authority. At this stage, they organized themselves into 12 misls or confederacies which exercised control over different parts of the kingdom. The credit for establishing a strong kingdom of Punjab goes to Ranjit Singh. He was the son of Mahan Singh, the leader of Sukar Chakya Misl. The Ranjit Singh brought under control the area extending from the Sutlej to the Jhelum. He conquered Lahore in 1799 and Amritsar 1802. By the Treaty of Amritsar with the British, Ranjit Singh acknowledged the British right over the Sea Sultanate territories. Ranjit Singh proved to be an efficient administrator. He greatly modernized his army with the help of Europeans. But towards the close of his reign, the English forced him to sign the Tripartite Treaty in 1838 with Shah Shuja and the English company, whereby they agreed to provide passage to the British troops through Punjab with a view to placing Shah Shuja on the throne of Kabul. Ranjit Singh died in 1839. His successor could not keep the state intact, and soon enough, the British took control over it. The Marathas. Perhaps the most formidable province to emerge was that of the Marathas. Under the capable leadership of the Peshwas, the Marathas uprooted the Mughal authority from Malwa and Gujarat and established their rule. At one time, they claimed the right to be the chief inheritors of the Mughal dominant, but their authority was challenged by Ahmad Shah Abdali in the Third Battle of Panipat. The Marathas quickly recovered from the defeat and offered the most formidable challenge to the English East India Company in the struggle for political supremacy in India. Rohilkhand and Farrukhabad. The estates of Rohilkhand and the kingdom of the Bangash Panthas were a fallout of the Afghan migration into India. Large scale immigration of Afghans into India took place in mid 18th century because of political and economic turmoil in Afghanistan. Ali Muhammad Khan took advantage of the collapse of authority in North India following Nadir Shah's invasions to set up a petty kingdom, Rohilkhand. This was the area of Himalaya foothills between Kuaman in the north and the Ganga in the south. The Rohillas, as the inhabitants of Rohilkhand were known, suffered heavily at the hands of the other powers in the area, the Jats and the Awadh rulers, and later the Marathas and the British. Muhammad Khan Bangash, an Afghan, set up independent kingdom to the east of Delhi in the area around Farrukhabad during the reigns of Farrukhsiyar and Muhammad Shah. Nature and limitation of regional state. The independent political system that emerged in the provinces continued to maintain ties with the Mughal emperor authority and acknowledged the emperor's importance as an umbrella. Even rebel chieftains of the Marathas and Sikhs recognized the Mughal emperor as the supreme authority. The polity that emerged in these states were regional in character and functional with the collaborative support in the different local groups like the jamidars, merchant, local nobles, and chieftains. The provincial rulers had to take care of these various local interests in order to maintain themselves. Of course, there were exceptions. For instance, in Mysore, rulers did not recognize the local chieftains. The regional states had certain limitations. The provincial rulers failed to develop a system based on sound financial, administrative, and military organization. Though some of them tried to modernize, notably Mysore, on the whole, they were backward in the science and technology. Another drawback was the constant warfare these states had with the neighboring regional powers, wars in which none could ultimately dominate. In fact, these states were strongly enough to challenge Mughal power, but no one was able to replace it with a stable polity at an all India level. The Jagirdari crisis intensified as income from agriculture declined and the number of contenders for a share of surplus multiplied. Though trade, internal and foreign, continued without disruption and even prospered, the rest of economy stagnated. Socio-economic conditions. 18th century India failed to make progress economically, socially, or culturally. At an adequate pace, India became a land of contrast because extreme poverty and extreme luxury existed side by side. The common populace remained impoverished, backward, and oppressed or lived at the bare subsistence level. The rich and the powerful enjoyed a life of luxury and lavishness, but it is worth noting that the life of the Indian masses was, by the larger, better in the 18th century than it was after 100 years of British rule. Agriculture. Though agriculture was technical backward, it was worked by the hard labor of peasants. But this hard-working class leadom got the fruits of their labor. Even though the agriculture produce supported the rest of the society, a peasant's own reward was miserably inadequate. They were forced to pay exorbitant amounts to the state, the zamindars, the jagirdars, and the revenue farmers, but this worsened under British rule. Trade and industry. On account of being self sufficient and handicrafts and agriculture products, India didn't import foreign goods on a large scale. On the other hand, its industrial and agriculture products were in good demand in foreign markets. Hence, its exports were more than its imports. Trade was balanced by import or silver and gold. India was known as sink of precious metal. Items of import from the Persian Gulf region: pearls, rose silk, wool, dates, dried fruits, and rose water. From Arabia, coffee, gold, drugs, and honey. From China, tea, sugar, porcelain, and silk. From Tibet, gold, musk, and woolen cloth. From Africa, ivory and drugs. From Europe, woolen cloth, copper, iron, lead, and paper. Items of export: cotton textiles, raw silk and silk fabrics, hardware, indigo, saltpeter, opium, rice, wheat, sugar, pepper, and other species, precious stones, and drugs. Important centers of textile industry: Dhaka, Murshidabad, Patna, Surat, Ahmedabad, Prague, Chanderi, Burhanpur, Jaunpur, Varanasi, Lucknow, Agra, Multan, Lahore, Masulipatam, Aurangabad, Srikakulam, Vishakhapatnam, Bangalore, Coimbatore, Madurai, etc. Kashmir was a center of woolen manufactures. Shipbuilding industries: Maharashtra, the Andhra region, and the Bengal were the leaders in shipbuilding. Indian shipping also flourished on the Kerala coast at Calicut and Ceylon. The Zamorin of Calicut used to Muslim Kunzali Marikers, who were well known for their seafaring ability for his navy. Shivaji's Sponsors navy put up a good defense on the west coast against the Portuguese. According to Bipin Chandra, the European companies bought many India-made ships for their use. Status of education. The education imparted in 18th century India was still traditional, which could not match with the rapid developments in the West. The knowledge was confined to literature, law, regional philosophy, and logic, and excluded the study of physical and natural sciences, technology, and geography. In fact, due to over reliance praise of ancient learning, any original thought got discouraged. Elementary education among the Hindus and the Muslims was quite widespread. The Hindu and Muslim elementary schools were called pathshalas and maktabs respectively. The education was confined to reading, writing, and arithmetic. Children from the lower caste sometimes attended the school, but female presence was rare. Jyotispates or Tols, as, as they were called in Bihar and Bengal, were the centers of higher education. Some of the famous centers of Sanskrit education were Kasi, Varanasi, Tirhut, Mithaila, Nadia, and Utkala. Madras were the institution of higher learning for Persian and Arabic, Persian being the court language and learned by Muslims as well as the Hindus. Azimabad, Patna was the famous center for Persian education. People interested in the study of Quran and Muslim theology had to acquire proficiency in Arabic.